Verse 476. Why is there no being? What kind of teaching is in accordance with popular thinking? How can one cease cherishing eternalism and nihilism? We've got some more questions here. More questions from Mahamiti to the Buddha. And as I was pointing out in the last two videos, I'm exploring the possibility that these questions are actually related to enlightenment practice. Enlightenment practice is a coming and going. It's a coming and going into and from the house of enlightenment. As often as possible we return to the house, but there are times we have to come out. When we don't have to come out, we endeavour to return. That's where the effort is. That's where the effort of enlightenment practice lies, in returning whenever there's a possibility. And there's a possibility most of the time. So we begin with, why is there no being? And this is the sort of question which takes us into the house of enlightenment. Why is there no being? This is when we're reminding ourselves that conventional reality, the world that the attention is normally caught up in, has no intrinsic substance. And so we leave it, bring the attention back, and bring it back to its own essential nature, which is that of awareness, the awareness that's hearing this. But the question is, why is there no being? And this is something that needs to be explored. It's not something we simply take on faith. It's something that goes against our natural assumption that there is such a thing as being, that there are such things as individuals out there, other objects, other things, other entities. These are what attract our attention. These objects, these other individuals, these other entities are what we invest our identity in. The enlightenment practitioner leaves apparent being and comes back to a sense of being. I won't go into the arguments for why there is no being here, why this is so. This has been explored in previous videos. As an enlightenment practitioner, though, at some point you've realized this for yourself, or more accurately, you've entered into this realization. And as an enlightenment practitioner, you remind yourself of this realization and you come back to it afresh. So the next question is, what kind of teaching is in accordance with popular thinking? Well, this is the opposite teaching. This is the teaching that we normally get caught up in, that there is such a thing as an external world. That's what's real. It's us that are temporary. We as individuals are temporary. But the world carries on without us. We see this. We see people dying, people being born, getting older and dying. But the world carries on. So, this is the teaching in accordance with popular thinking. It seems perfectly reasonable, doesn't it? This is the assumption that the philosophers make, and we're all philosophers to some extent. We all either cherish eternalism or nihilism. We might not think in these terms, but this is what drives us all. The belief in eternalism, the belief that the world always exists, the belief that that is what should be the focus of our attention. That's where our happiness lies. And if not in this life, then in another life. This is eternalism. I've described it previously as religious belief. But you don't have to subscribe to a religious belief. It's basically a mentality. It's a go-getting mentality. Makes the most of what's on offer, goes for it, in the belief that this is what you're supposed to do. And this is where happiness lies. And it might be, if that's the sort of person you are, and that's what you're satisfied with, even though at some point your loved ones and yourself are all going to disappear. But if you're happy with carving out a certain niche and making the most of it, then that's a very valid approach to take. But if you want to look a little bit deeper, if there has been an enlightenment event in your life, then there's another option here. The option of touching something other than this life, other than all the relationships that you forge, other than your own identity. There's something beyond all this. And if you've touched it and you've got this tendency towards the lifestyle I've described, then this is something you have to observe and step beyond or step behind. And nihilism's the opposite. Nihilism can also be a religious point of view. Buddhism can often be understood in nihilistic terms. It could be a so-called scientific point of view, that this is it. There's nothing else. You're born, you die, that's it, end of story. And the world is determined by evolution and a dog-eat-dog mentality where might is right. And you might just want nothing to do with it. And you grudge everything that you have to do because the world's a pretty awful place. Religion's for the weak-minded. Spirituality is a crutch for the emotionally crippled. And so on. You might have this tendency. So eternalism is about engaging the world in the belief that you can find some kind of satisfaction. And nihilism is rejecting the world. In that rejection, you feel that you're being realistic. You see how things really are. You see the world for the horrible place that it is. You're right. And you're miserable in your righteousness. But what can you do? Anybody that's happy is actually quite deluded because they're not seeing the true picture. So this is nihilism, or one understanding of it. So we cherish one or the other. And the way beyond this, how do we cease cherishing these points of view? Well, the way is to see that there is no being. The way is to stop relating to the world in either of these ways. We come back to suchness. We come back to a sense of being. Not some egoistic sense of being, but a cosmic sense of being. We are essentially cosmic beings. We're not little ego identities. We're not little puffed up ego identities. We are not any identity at all. We are being. We are awareness. We are suchness. This is our essence. And it's not that we are that. The we, the I, the me, are just little eddies in this all-encompassing, all-embracing awareness. And it's a cosmic thing, because it's all there is. It embodies everything. So this is what we can get a sense of. This is what we can get a sense of. We no longer play the game, or we no longer mistake the game for reality. We can still play the game, but as often as possible, we come back to our true, essential reality.